All right, welcome back to the Unnamed Movie Car Podcast. Today we're talking about an interesting one, recording at you live from Argentina.
Yes.
Which might not be the best idea, given the film.
Maybe.
Because today we're talking about the Patagonia special from Top Gear. This was the last Top Gear special to be filmed with Jeremey Clarkson, Richard Hammond, and James May, filmed and released in 2014.
So it was the 22nd...
22nd season.
22nd season, first and second episodes.
Right. So the 22nd season of Top Gear.
I got it. I nailed it.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I mean, say no more. So what'd you think?
Well, right off the bat, I mean, I'm a huge fan of what is it? What did we
Top
watch?
Gear?
Top Gear.
Wow, must be a huge fan.
Number one fan of whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah. Sure.
No, I'm actually a big fan of Top Gear. In fact, I remember. I'm not okay. Before I go into that, I thought it was great. I thought it was very interesting. This particular, the two episodes, especially at the end of the second episode, wow. I mean, really, really cool. Obviously, wow, so much going on. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But, like I say, I've always been a big fan. I've always appreciated their sense of humor. It's always fun to see them really beat on cars.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about that. But, yeah, I really, really enjoyed the show and have been a big fan of, what was it, Gears in Motion? What is it? I don't know. Anyway, big fan of Top Gear. And and I remember, too, never mind. I'm not even going to get into it now. I'm going to let you say what you want to say. What did you think of it?
I love this. So this was my pick. I pick all the even episode numbers. I love this. This is probably one of my favorite automotive pieces of film, I guess I want to say. Like, I rewatched this special a lot. I know it pretty much forward and back.
Well, now we own it.
Now we do own it. We bought it on Amazon with our huge budget here. We bought it on Amazon just to make this. And a lot of people have been asking for Top Gear stuff.
Yes.
And there's no real
We listen to our fans.
We do listen to our fans. There's no real good way of doing Top Gear. Just because it was a TV show and someone asked us to do our top 10 favorite episodes of Top Gear.
Wow. Which
I'm sure I could list a few right off the bat, but like we usually like to watch the stuff before we talk about it.
Oh yeah.
So you're talking about watching, more than 10 episodes of Top Gear, which is a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah.
So unfortunately we won't be doing our top 10 episodes, but I think specials like this, films, we own one of their side films, which was the James Bond cars.
Yeah.
We could do the
heaven
Africa
forbid,
special.
Heaven forbid we have to watch something.
Yeah. No, okay. I know that sounds bad, but like in order to narrow down your top 10, you got to watch at least 20, 30 episodes.
You do.
If you just watch 10 episodes, then that's your top 10.
You actually, you could probably do that almost off the top of your head. I couldn't. I would have to watch, what is this car racing thing? What is this show called? Top Gear.
Oh my God, this bit's getting old.
All right, fine.
I'm not gonna keep reminding you. I'm gonna put you in a home before I keep reminding you.
You keep telling me that. Our last episode is when I was
gonna say
home.
Our finale is you're gonna hear clinking of Jello cups in the background, and
it'll be fun.
Do you want more coffee?
Wow,
that's all you're gonna hear in the background.
That's what I'm drinking now, and Jello.
And Jello shots.
And drive
not
around.
Jello shots. Jeez.
That is a retirement home I want to go to.
Yeah,
I want to be a part of that. I want to drive around golf carts with Jello shots.
Well, here in town there was a nightclub that was demolished, and they built an old folks home over it.
Wait, what?
Up this way.
Okay.
I'm pointing with my finger.
Gotcha.
There was a nightclub.
That
was
yes,
demolished,
that's right.
and they built an old folks home over. So Jello shots probably,
wow, yeah, well,
probably would go hand in hand right there.
The ghost of cocktails past, goes through that haunted.
Yeah, we always joke
manor.
about there used to be different kinds of pills popped there.
Yes.
Now it's all arthritis pills, but back in the day,
it's still a pill popping place.
Yeah, it's still that corner's just the pill popping corner.
So anyway,
getting back to Top Gear, I would also say my favorite Top Gear episodes are the specials.
Yeah. Oh,
however,
yeah. Okay, go ahead.
However, their new show, The Grand Tour, with the same three guys, they just do like road trips and stuff.
That's it?
And it feels less special.
Ah,
which is
okay.
interesting.
Well, that is interesting.
Because they would always do a Christmas special was their road trip that they would do. Cheap cars through Bolivia,
Yes.
cheap cars through Africa, cheap cars here in America, which we should.
You and I should do one.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
That's like we'll
we
touch
own
on that
cheap
later.
cars.
Well, yeah, we could just pick any car in our driveway and do the $500 car challenge.
Right. Yep.
But those were always my favorite episodes. But it's interesting they moved to the Grand Tour.
Yeah.
And in order to be different from Top Gear, because Top Gear actually lived on after them.
Okay.
They got new presenters for Top Gear. We'll talk about why later on.
All right.
But now they just do adventures on Grand Tour, and I don't think it's as strong.
Really?
It's still kind of fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, I would
it's
hope
still
so,
definitely
but
fun to watch. But
All right.
they focus less and less on the cars. They almost Fast and Furious it, where they focus less and less on the cars.
Okay.
And it's just more of like the adventure, which is fun.
So are they now like international secret agents?
No, God. Jeez.
Well,
thank God they aren't.
Okay. No, I get you.
But
They
so
could be.
I hold, and I think a lot of people feel this way, hold the original Top Gear specials in sort of they hold it higher on the podium, I guess.
Yeah.
Just because.
Okay. All right.
Because it was a whole season worth of stuff, and then at
Right.
the end of the season, or in this case, actually at the beginning of the season, but you'd see all these car reviews and little stuff here, there,
Oh,
here, there,
sure.
here, there.
Yeah.
But then you got this big 2-hour
Yeah.
finale.
Yeah. And they were always fun. I mean, they were. There was a formula for them.
Yeah.
They always had some of the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I found it funny in this one. I'll tell you later, but I found it funny. They were kind of tongue-in-cheek in talking about the other stuff they've done.
Yes.
Yeah. And about the fact that they were, I guess one of the guys at one point says he looks right at the camera and says, "I'm sorry, I have a boring, reliable car."
Yeah.
So I think it was
James May and
James
the
May.
Lotus.
James May.
Yeah.
I can never remember all the names. I mean, there's Justin Bieber. What else? There's there's
Richard
James
Hammond.
May.
James May.
Yeah.
Jeremey Clarkson's
Jeremey
the main
Clarkson.
guy. We're going to
Okay.
be talking
The
a lot
tall-
about Jeremey
he's a
Clarkson.
Tall, no, well, they're both tall. Well,
Yeah, but
Except for-
he's the front man, obviously,
yes.
in the trio. Richard Hammond is the shorter.
Richard Hammond.
They
yeah.
always make fun of him for being
Yeah.
short,
He's cool.
dark-haired,
Yeah.
beard.
I mean, they're all cool. I like them all.
Yeah, I like them all. Like, really,
Right.
there's nothing really to hate about either of
Yeah.
them, and they all bring certain things to the table.
Yeah.
So-
Shout out to all three of them because I know they're listeners.
Oh
to
yeah, well
this
they're
one.
hardcore listeners.
Yeah.
Now that they don't have too much to do.
Okay.
But I only have one note for this,
Okay.
and my only single note is 2 words, and it just says beautiful cinematography.
You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. That is it
Every
was amazing.
single one. That's see,
Amazing.
I've taken a lot from Top Gear in terms of my own reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Suction cupping the camera to the windshield and
Yeah.
filming myself talking.
Yeah.
That's from Top Gear. I mean, that's how they do
okay.
a lot of their reviews.
Okay.
But they cut in the best cinematography. They
Yeah.
get the coolest shots. They get the
Yeah.
most awesome shots.
Especially in this one. Holy
Especially in this one.
cow. I mean, they talked about the scenery, but holy cow.
Yeah.
Really beautiful to look at. And then, of course, fun. The whole trip is fun.
Mhm.
Well, not the whole trip, but most of the trip is
Right.
fun throughout.
Yeah, and it's
And,
fun to
you know,
watch,
it's-
and you get to see these beautiful landscapes.
Yep.
I've watched a lot of this with my girlfriend Bella, and
Mm-hmm.
she enjoys seeing the different locations
Yeah.
and seeing the
Yeah.
different countries, and they usually do a pretty good job at highlighting the country.
Yes,
And
exactly.
being they're not, feeding thousands when they go here. They're filming a car show, but
Right.
they're always super appreciative. They
Yes.
always talk about how
Yep.
great the people that they've met along the way have
Yes.
been, with the exclusion of this.
Yes. Well, we'll
of
talk
this,
about that. But
episode.
they even said up to that point,
Yeah.
everyone had been really wonderful to them. So
Yes.
you're right.
Yeah.
That's
So,
really.
I'm enacting a new rule right now.
What?
For the Unnamed Movie Car podcast. I think we should wait till the 10-minute mark to give spoilers.
Oh, wow.
Because
really?
that gives
Okay.
people a good chance
All right,
to.
okay.
We're at the 9:30
All right.
mark.
So,
All
right. So we'll mention that then. Is that no spoilers until 10?
Yeah, I
right?
think that's
Okay.
fair.
All right,
That
okay.
idea literally just popped in my head right now. I haven't been so from here on
No,
out.
there's a lot of research
Yeah.
that goes on at the studio here.
You guys-
for-
You guys hear most of our planning
Exactly.
live.
it's podcast verite. It's like
Yeah.
live podcast verite. It's
This
live-
you get the real podcast and
Yeah.
the behind the scenes
Yeah.
all together in one show.
It is all the time, everything. Okay.
So we are past the 10-minute
right,
mark.
so spoilers now.
Yeah, we'll start talking about spoilers. But
okay, go ahead. Yes.
what were your notes? You don't even have post-it notes this time. You got nothing.
I got nothing this time. I've got memories. I actually watched it today, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time, I'm like glued to the TV when I'm watching the movie or when I'm watching the show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glued to it. This time I wasn't.
Really interesting.
Not because I didn't want to, but I had a couple other things I had to do today.
Yeah.
And so I was reading a user manual for a planer. Okay.
Oh wow. Okay.
So very different,
Yeah.
completely different things. And I'm not good at multitasking.
Yeah.
I am a typical male. I am not good
Yeah.
at multitasking. I totally suck at it. So I would stop the video, read a little bit, and then I would go back and watch.
Did you feel like the pacing was too slow? Did you feel like it wasn't interesting enough at times, or did you just literally have so much on your plate today?
I had a lot on my plate today that I really wanted to do some other things. However, it is a little bit slow because I know. In fact, I've seen bits of this before, so I knew bits of it.
Yeah,
so
that's fair too. Yeah,
it wasn't the absolute first time. The other thing is, they do follow a very particular formula, and that was one of the things I did want to talk about. Is they follow the formula of, okay, we're going to take and, hey, Nutty, the producers told us to do something nutty. They give us this thing that we have to do, and we have cars that in the beginning, we all have very different cars.
Right.
And we see, the good and the bad of each one, blah, blah, blah. There's a little riff back and forth where they talk about, they give each other grief about the different cars they've chosen. Then they go on this trip. Then the cars break down.
Right.
And there's issues and problems along the way. And then they, make fun of each other. And they make their horn go when the parking brake, when the brake goes on.
They always prank each other's cars.
Yes, they prank each other's.
They always find a workshop and cue the music and then modify the cars.
Right, exactly.
You're right. It is very much a formula, and I think the formula worked for a while, and I think that's maybe why I'm not so keen on their new series.
Okay,
is because that formula carried over.
Oh.
They go to the workshop and cue the music. And so for Top Gear, I think they did 6 specials, like 6 or 7 full specials.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it was 6. And so throughout the 6, they were different enough to kind of keep that fluid or keep that, interesting.
Yeah.
When they moved to the Grand Tour, it started to really feel repetitive. It was, these guys, they're moving platforms, and we should mention Andy Wilhelm. I think it's Andy Willem or Wilhelm, like the Scream.
That's right.
He was the producer. He's sort of the fourth man in their quad.
Okay.
He was the guy behind producing all of the stuff. And when they left the BBC, Andy went with them.
Okay.
So he is like sort of the creative guy behind the scenes. So the 4 of them really found this pattern that really worked, and they carried it over. So when they went over to Amazon, I felt like they kind of just kept doing the exact same thing.
Yeah. You know who's not on the crew?
Who?
Craig Lieberman.
Craig Lieberman is not on the crew. I don't know how. I feel like he'd be a worthy...
He would be a definite asset to them.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. So, shut up. But you're right.
Yeah, so that formula I totally understand, and that formula is it is still fun to watch. I don't want to sound like I'm dragging on the Grand Tour.
No,
but
it
is
fan.
It's sort of getting to that point where now they're only doing one adventure a year, which I think keeps it fresh. And they actually just did it recently. They did a boating one where they boated around. I think it was Vietnam or something.
Wow.
They all got
boating.
Boats.
Really,
yeah,
boats.
Yeah,
well, okay, that's kind of cool.
The title of it is called Seaman.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, real tongue in cheek there.
That's good.
They've been taking a little bit more creative liberties with Amazon.
I want to see them do something to the moon or something on outer space.
Well, you know what? One of the very early ones,
they
turned a Reliant Robin, which is a little 3-wheeled car.
That's
they
right.
turned it into a space shuttle.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that. They did
went
that.
to space
yes.
in like 05 or 06 or something.
And by the way, I remember you and Nick were the ones that got me interested in this. And you showed me, and you were really young. You showed me the first episode I ever saw, and it was who's the main guy again?
Jeremey Clarkson.
Jeremey Clarkson, right?
Yeah.
he was in a 3-wheel vehicle that kept tipping
Yes.
over. That was the one that I first saw, and I
So
thought it was great. I thought it was great.
that is probably one of the most famous Top Gear bits.
Is it really?
Yeah,
Oh,
because
okay.
I mean that was a bit, honestly. Those cars don't roll over that easily. He was flying down the ramp,
sure.
and he, grabbed the steering wheel and yanked.
But it was funny because he's like, okay, the first thing I did as soon as, and of course he tries to turn a corner and it falls. But yeah,
which also goes to speak on the sort of interesting relationship that we've had with Top Gear here in America.
Yeah,
because it wasn't on our TV until the last couple of years.
What? Yeah, but it was on.
We would see it through YouTube clips. Someone in the UK would rip it, put it on old YouTube. We're talking 2006 YouTube, 2007 YouTube, where there wasn't really copyright infringements, and you could literally post anything.
Yeah.
And so we sort of got small tastes of Top Gear.
What didn't it come on cable then, or something, or what? How did we get it?
I believe it's on the BBC Two here in America.
Oh,
or BBC US,
but we saw it.
But
anyway.
then we also got an American version of Top Gear that had 3 different guys, and it was a completely different show, just under the same name, and they did similar things. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
And it was
Oh, you're right. Now I do remember that.
It wasn't bad. I definitely enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't, just because it was the American version.
Yeah.
It didn't live up to the UK version.
Good day, Top Gear. I can't even do an accent.
That's the worst British accent I've ever heard. No, but like I love the guys.
Hello, Governor.
I love love 2 of the guys on American Top Gear.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Adam Ferreira, I believe, and Rutledge Wood. 2 really cool presenters. Tanner Faust on American Top Gear seems like a little brat child.
Oh, I don't remember seeing. I don't remember seeing. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, so we only got really Top Gear through bits and pieces on YouTube, or you could find it. Try to find it online before Amazon put everything out. Actually, it was on Netflix for a long time. Top Gear, and then it got pulled off Netflix, and then brought over to Amazon, I believe.
Really?
So yeah, it used to be on Netflix. Because I remember this was back in probably beginning of high school, maybe late junior high for me.
Yeah.
I would sit and play Minecraft and literally go through. I went series. They call it series, but it's season 1 through, I think it was like season 15 at the time.
Yeah.
And I just watched every single episode while playing Minecraft.
Wow.
So,
So
I've seen all the episodes and things like that. But anyway.
All right.
What were some of your favorite moments of the Patagonia special?
Well, I mean, the spectacular scenery, of course, and it was really cool. It's always fun to see what they ride up in, and when they first come up. I thought Jeremey Clarkson didn't like Porsches. Did I remember that incorrectly? One of them doesn't like Porsches.
No, you're right. Hammond loves Porsches.
Yes, exactly.
Jeremey Clarkson doesn't really like modern Porsches.
Okay.
Obviously, in this one, he liked the 928.
Right.
But yeah, he's not a big fan of modern ones. No. So that was interesting that he rolled up in one.
Yes,
but
that's
after
what
hearing
I thought
the
was
story, you kind of understand why.
Absolutely,
which is
cool
probably
thing.
one of my favorite parts of of this special was Jeremey talking about how he was testing a 928 back in the 90s. His dad was about to pass away.
Yep.
And so he got in the car and drove unreasonably, I guess in the moment, reasonably fast.
Yeah.
And his dad was still alive when he got there, and he died 30 minutes later.
Yeah, for 30 minutes. I mean, that could have been.
I mean, that's a window that if you're in a Nissan Micra or something, you wouldn't have made it.
Yeah. Or what was their follow car for this episode?
Oh, the Citroen 2CV.
Citroen 2CV, which he hated.
Yeah, which I've always wanted to drive a 2CV. I've only ever seen one in person.
And
up in Dordt County, Wisconsin. Shout out.
Really?
And it was parked as like an advertisement out in front of a building. It looked like it was still in driving order, but it just had it had the business on the side of it, and it was just parked.
But I have to say, so that was from an editor's standpoint, and probably producers, but from an editor's standpoint, that was a brilliant little piece that they did with the follow-up car or the replacement car.
Right.
Where if they were in trouble, you'd see
Yeah.
them and they would be
Yeah.
struggling in their car, and then off in the distance, no words, no nothing.
Yeah.
You'd see the follow-up car just sitting there like waiting, like
So they've
looking
done
over
that
them.
for most, if not all, the specials.
Oh, have
there's
they? Okay,
always
all right, so
there's
that's-
always a. They mention in this one, they're
Yeah.
like, oh, that must be the producer's comedy backup car.
Yes,
They
exactly.
always do something like
Okay,
that.
yeah.
I believe in the. It's not the Africa special, because the Africa special was with wagons, like estate cars, like long
okay.
roofline
Oh,
cars.
okay.
But they
all right.
drove across.
Yeah.
They drove across some lake bed in Africa that no car had ever crossed before.
Really?
Yeah,
Eh,
because it
cool.
was just this like really thick. It was like a crust on top, and then this like really mushy, like ancient, like salt
Okay,
flats essentially.
yeah,
I think it
okay.
actually was salt flats.
Yep.
And they drove across, and they had a Volkswagen Beetle
Okay.
follow them, and they're all laughing about it. And then at the end, they're like, "Which was the best car?" And they're like, they had to like modify the crap out of these cars in order
Oh
to
yeah.
drive it across
And they
the
always
salt
do.
flats.
Yeah.
And they're like, honestly, the Beetle, we didn't have to touch it. It followed us the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, honestly.
Exactly. Well, and that was, but they make the comedy backup car be this thing sitting in the
Yeah,
background
yeah.
waiting for something bad to happen, and it's almost becomes a character
Yeah.
in those episodes. And so I just thought, what a great from a just a purely produced, edited standpoint.
an entertainment thing. It's something to look for.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something for the viewer to look forward to. It's sort
Yeah.
of an inside joke that you now have.
It is
Right.
and then
And I agree with that. Yeah.
the car doesn't have to do anything. It just sits there, and just seeing that
Yeah.
car, you're like, oh man, are they gonna
Yeah.
have to, do that?
And it's
So-
always when they're fixing the cars.
Yeah,
and
they're
stuff, so
fixing the
it's like
car.
there's impending doom.
right,
Yeah.
or there's like it's waiting in the wings to
Right.
to step
Yeah, yeah.
in, and there's always that feeling. And so I just thought it was a brilliant choice of, I don't know who chose it. It was the director, the editor,
Mhm.
whatever. But it was a great thing to
Yeah.
add, and like you said, I think they've done it in other ones too. So
One thing I did want to say, I forgot to mention at the beginning. Most of the Top Gear specials were 1 hour. It was a
Oh.
full hour. This was a 2-part, 2 hour.
yeah, this was long.
So
Yeah.
this was long. So normally the pacing is a little bit tighter.
Yeah.
Because they had the 2 hours as a 2-part series, or 2-part special.
Yeah.
It was a little bit slower, but most of the specials, I believe, were 1 hour.
Well, and a lot happened in this
Yeah,
one, really.
no,
I
for
mean,
sure.
and they
Yep. Hold for
Excuse me.
burp. Hold for burp. All right.
So one of the other things was, I thought it was very interesting how they went through in this one almost every conceivable climate.
Terrain.
Yeah,
and
terrain
yeah,
and
yeah.
climate. Snow, rain, fog, everything.
Yeah,
like
mud,
water,
a lot of mud.
lot of
On
my
driving on
gosh.
the beach, the
Drive-
sand.
driving on the beach when
Yeah.
the tide was coming
Yeah.
in, driving. I mean, trying to do. I mean, that was craziness. All that stuff was craziness.
That's why I wanted to pick this special, because I think this is a good a lot of stuff happened here.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You get a very good feel for it, and it's the last one they did for Top Gear. I would say this
Yeah.
is sort of the pinnacle of it all. This is where it was
Yep.
sort of, the specials were at their height of still being fresh but still being fun.
Okay,
They
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
jump the shark.
Yeah, true.
But it was a lead up because, each special got better and better and better, and they thought of better ideas, and the camera equipment got better. When you go back and
Right.
watch the first, when you go back and watch some of the first specials that they did,
Yeah.
the America special,
Oh.
where they came to
Oh
America,
yeah, that's right.
which we should
I did-
definitely do an
yeah,
episode
that
on.
would be. Yeah.
You watch it, and the cameras are like 240p inside the cars. So this
Yes.
one was modern enough. This was
Yeah.
actually in, I believe, 4K. They shot it in 4K.
Okay.
Because I realized only season 15 and 14 and onward was filmed in HD.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because we just and we tape these in advance. We record these in
Yeah.
advance. I was listening to the one. It was, gosh, which one it was?
Gumball Rally.
I think it's Gumball Rally.
Cars.
Yeah. Where you were talking about the fact we literally had the same conversation about the 240p.
Oh, really?
And about shooting. And you had mentioned that when you're talking about YouTube, that you don't need to have super duper equipment. You can
Right.
start out small. You do a great job with the stuff that you have,
Right.
but you said even that you could record everything on your iPhone and be fine.
Yeah.
But a lot of the stuff.
And that's the thing is that America Special is one of my favorite specials.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't have high production
it's
quality.
the story.
It doesn't have
It's the story.
It doesn't have the helicopter shots that this one
Right.
had. Which
Or
they must have had a
drone.
helicopter.
Or drone.
I don't know.
Or drone.
Or maybe drone, but like
they're
they're pretty high up there
Yeah.
and pretty high
Yeah.
def. And you have to think in 2014. Well, this is also the BBC, which
yeah.
we'll definitely talk about later.
Okay. Well, the other
Um,
thing is,
I think that plays a huge part in why I don't enjoy the specials as much anymore. Is
Okay.
that they're not from the BBC.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, one of the things I know is that there's a shot where they're in the garage working on the cars.
Oh, that's
And
a
it
drone.
pulls
for sure.
back.
I thought
There's
of that.
no
That's
doubt
very
that
much
that's
a
a drone.
drone.
But yeah, you're right.
There's
some
a
of them
couple
are pretty high.
driving shots where it looks
Yeah.
real smooth. It looks real helicopter-y. And I know
it
for a
could be.
fact they used to use helicopters a lot.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
well,
they
then
did,
maybe it was then. Maybe I'll just shut up. And
You
just,
should.
Wow.
Just in life, that's
Ouch.
a life lesson. But
Yikes. You're grounded.
okay. They did, I think, the perfect road trip. They did some road trip through Italy in supercars. So,
Okay.
boo-hoo, hardest thing in the world.
Right.
Um,
right. Exactly.
But
oh my god.
I think it's James May, and he's like, "Oh, hello, Mr. Cameraman,"
Yeah.
and there's a helicopter maybe 10 feet off the ground,
What?
like
Yeah?
going backwards, filming these cars.
Wow.
Like it's insane.
That's
Like the
wild,
helicopter
yeah.
work that they've
All
done.
right.
So
okay.
I
So
know
that's
they have
cool.
a lot
Props
of
to them
experience
for
with
that. Yeah.
that.
Okay.
But what
Or
were some other
drones.
highlights for you?
Or drones.
Or it could have been drones. Could have been drones.
Other highlights. Oh gosh, there's a whole ton of them that are
Mhm.
just. I mean, it's just really fun. I do like when they prank each other, although
Yeah.
it's very campy and you know it's set
Yeah.
up and all that. And that is one of the things I wanted to say is that they did a really good job of making it look like and seem like basically the three of them were out in the middle of nowhere alone.
Right. There is
They're
a little
not.
bit of Bear Grylls syndrome thing where, like, yeah, they are staying in nice hotels each night.
Right.
They are doing
Yeah.
this. They are doing that.
Yeah.
Yes, there are things set up.
Yeah.
Yes, they drive down a road, and then they have to go back and re-drive down the road to get
Yes.
another angle.
Yes.
And then go back up the road and drive another.
Well, and
Are the three
yeah.
of them driving the cars completely all 1,000 miles? Maybe.
Okay. Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
All right.
That is up in the air. I know in American Top Gear they did not. They
Really?
did not drive the
They-
cars that far.
Wow.
But
okay.
apparently the UK version, the original version, the good
Yeah.
version,
Yeah.
apparently they did do 99% of the driving.
Well, and that's cool, and that's great that they would actually do like 99% of the driving or
Right.
whatever. But you have to remember too, especially in this one, and I don't know, so I don't know, like I wasn't there, so I
Right,
don't
yeah.
know
Thank God.
all of the. Yeah, no kidding. I don't know all of the time, but at some point they talk about 31 crew members.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of people,
Yeah.
actually. And if you're, even when it looks like they're in the middle of nowhere and they were at like Butch Cassidy's house or
Yeah.
whatever, and it looked like there was literally only the
Yeah.
three of them staying at the
It's
house.
shot really well.
It's shot extremely well, I think. And the fact that you have that feeling, although at the same time, they're surrounded by, let's say 25 crew members.
Yeah.
So the fact that, yeah, okay, their car might break down, but I guarantee they've got expert mechanics.
They have
Yeah.
mechanics there,
Yeah.
and that's something that Mom always reminds me of when I want
Oh,
to. When I want to,
right.
I almost bought that $300 Saturn to drive to California.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, they do it on TV, and
Yeah.
she's like, well, you're not seeing the truck full
yeah,
of parts.
right. And
I'm sure they have every
oh yeah,
hose, clamp,
yeah.
everything.
They could rebuild the cars, I bet.
100%.
Yeah.
And
So
I think I sort of struggled with that as a kid when I found out that this stuff wasn't just three guys with cameras. I
Yeah.
mean, genuinely, and my
I
world was
know,
kind of
I get
shattered
it.
for
I
a
get it.
second.
Okay, I'm not laughing at that. I'm
Yeah.
laughing at the fact that that is such a like Hollywoody thing that
yeah.
it makes it look like this way. And
I was
anyway,
like,
go ahead,
oh,
go
they
ahead.
like the pranks were probably pre-planned
Yep.
and
Well,
all
plus
this stuff.
okay, go ahead.
Well,
Continue.
but now growing up, now
Yeah.
being, I don't know if I'm allowed to say I'm in production, in video production.
Yeah, you are definitely, absolutely,
And definitely
absolutely.
listening to a lot of I especially even listened to a podcast today that was talking about it. Is
Oh,
the
yeah.
fact that something you don't really consider is insurance. You don't
Oh, yeah.
consider
True.
deals. You don't
Right.
consider
Right.
all these backdoor things
Oh, yeah.
that have to take place in order to, if someone wants to prank someone and and push their car off a cliff, like they did do in one of the episodes.
Right.
Push
yes.
your car off the cliff.
Yes.
That's
exactly
mountains of paperwork.
Right.
That's
Right.
they have to find the location. They have to pay the location in
Yep.
order to throw this car off the cliff.
Yep.
They have to get insurance for who's
Yep.
going to do it. They have to do this. They have to do that. And so growing up, I've kind of become more okay with that.
Yeah.
I think Top Gear does do a really good job of keeping it realistic.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yep.
obviously they had help, obviously. But
Yep. Yeah.
you also did see the cars get stuck, and I don't think those cars were fake getting stuck.
Oh no, they were definitely getting
They
stuck.
were
Yeah,
the
I agree.
Mustang went through that river.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's things you can't fake.
Right.
Actually to the point where in the same Africa special that I'm talking about where they drove across the salt flats.
Yeah.
Richard Hammond got an old Opel. It's like a 56
An
Opel.
Opel? Oh,
Yeah,
really?
they named it
that's
Oliver
cool.
to the point where he still owns it today. After
Really?
the special, he bought it
that's
from
cool.
the BBC.
Oh, that's very cool. I like that.
But he drove it through a river or
Yeah.
a river crossing and
Yeah.
got stuck.
Really?
And he did not turn on the GoPro in his car.
Oh no.
So he had to do it again.
Wow.
So he said,
Wow.
he was like, he had to drive through the river again.
Yeah.
And he's like, it got stuck again.
Yeah.
And they had to fish it out again. So, like, that was
Yeah.
a real thing that they did, but for the shot, they had to do it twice.
Yeah.
So, like, things like that.
Yep.
And
I wonder too. I mean, the question I have for you is, how do you, how much do they know about cars? How much do you think the three of them actually know about cars or actually could do to those cars?
Well, I think they're very well versed in cars. Obviously, they
Yeah.
started the show in 2002.
Yeah.
And they are still producing some form of the show. So I think as journalists, they are very smart about cars.
Okay.
They know a lot about cars.
Yeah.
Mechanically,
Right.
none of them have like any racing pedigree
Okay.
or they don't really wrench on the cars in their hobby or in their day-to-day life.
Yeah.
It's not like me where I don't know if they've done motor swaps. I don't know if they've
Right.
actually gotten dirty and worked on the cars.
Which
They're
yeah.
very well versed in driving the cars
Yeah.
and the specs of the cars. I don't know. Maybe I think Richard Hammond out of all of them, or actually probably James May is very mechanical.
I would think so.
He's had
James May,
other
yeah.
BBC shows. Of
Oh,
like
a lot
literally,
of
like,
them.
like
A lot.
how things work.
Yeah, exactly.
And he'll take like post-war
Yeah.
toys and
Yeah.
take them apart.
James May, it's
Um,
funny because on I think it's Netflix that there's like 50 things that come up, like 50 shows that
Yeah,
have James
yeah.
May in them. And then there was one where
There's a food one.
yeah, there's
a
so
yeah.
many different ones. And there are ones with the little
The
guy.
three Hammond.
Hammond,
Yeah.
thank you, Hammond.
Yeah.
So with Hammond, he's in a bunch of shows. James May's a bunch of shows.
Jeremey Clarkson has a
Jeremy-
couple of shows.
Jeremy Clarkson, yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing is they're not really, and they make a joke of it. Jeremy Clarkson is like, I'm in a couple shows. He talks about how he's allergic to manual labor.
Oh, right. Yes.
So
And he actually does say in this
Yeah.
particular one, he says, I actually did manual labor and
Yeah.
got my hands dirty
Yeah.
or soiled. I think in his
Yeah.
words, I had my hands soiled. and
which
I
is
did
funny
actual manual
because
labor.
actually
Yeah.
during COVID, Jeremy Clarkson, he owns a farm now.
Oh, he does.
And all he's been doing is farming. He actually has a
Wow.
show coming out on Amazon Prime about farming because he's
Wow.
been farming and
Okay.
he's been running a farm shop where literally right now we could buy a plane, if we're allowed into the country, buy a plane ticket, go to
okay, yeah.
England and just, it's called Diddley Squat Farm.
Wow.
And you could go to the farm shop and buy potatoes and buy farm things that he grew.
That's
That's been his, like, that's
be
been
cool.
his
we
project.
should do that someday when
Oh,
this whole thing
100%.
is over.
Yeah.
We should fly over there and
Yeah.
visit him at his farm.
I'll
or
go
just
check
buy
you out of the
something.
nursing home.
Oh, wow.
And I'll get you
All right.
an economy plus seat. How about that? I'm being nice. Economy plus.
At least it's not cargo. Thanks. Jeez. Wow. With our 75.5 million each.
Oh yeah, I
know,
could
that's-
fit that into the budget. A Spirit Airlines flight to England.
Shout out to Spirit.
Shout out Spirit Airlines. I paid $7 for a muffin on that one
did
time.
you? Wow.
Yeah, when I was flying to Seattle. I was like, oh, I'll get Spirit Airlines. And then they're like, would you like a muffin? I was like, yeah, sure. And then
Sure.
she was like, swipe the card. And I was like, okay. I checked my statement. It was like $7.50 for a muffin. I was like,
funny. Yeah, that's the typical thing. It's like we went to the Sandwich Auto Show yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And I got a soda for Nick, and it was like $5.
Yeah.
Like $5. $5.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
we were at O'Hare Airport. Bella and I were flying to Spain.
Yeah.
And she was really thirsty. And they had just waters there. And they were $6.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I just took one out of the cooler, and then we boarded.
Yeah.
And I was like, we gotta flee the country right now. She's like, why? And I'm like, I just took this water bottle. I was not gonna pay $6. And
wow.
Yeah. So then we
I think
flew to
there's
Spain
a warrant
with
out,
contraband.
an international international warrant from
Yeah.
Interpol. Interpol has
I'm
you.
just kidding. That was a joke. Ha ha ha. That was a joke story. Let the text read that was a joke story.
Your Honor, it was
Your Honor,
a joke.
I said it was a joke. It
was a joke.
This is a comedy podcast. So getting back to it, the three cars real quick.
Yes.
1971 Ford Mustang Mach 1.
Which I think was totally cool looking. I thought it was really neat.
I thought it was cool looking.
Yeah.
I would not want one of those.
No.
Those just seem like dogs.
Well, here's the thing. I was thinking about that. You talk about the three different cars. Go ahead and talk about the three different cars, and then I've got some stuff for you after
Okay,
that.
so next up was
the
the Lotus Esprit V8 was a 1996.
Was
a lot
it really?
newer than I thought it was.
Huh.
It seemed like an
yeah.
early 90s. And then the Porsche 928 GT was in 1991. So what are your feelings on the Mustang?
So, I was thinking, I was going to ask you, of the three cars, which one would you have chosen to take of the three?
I mean, hindsight's 2020.
Sure,
Obviously,
sure.
the Lotus.
Right.
The Lotus did look comfortable, and it looked decent enough. I would have been between that or the Porsche.
Yeah.
I haven't driven a Mach 1, but I've driven a lot of cars from that era.
Yeah.
And they all drive like trash.
Do they
They're
really?
all
Yeah.
horrible.
Okay. All right.
They kind of do what they want. You don't have that much control over them, especially a big V8 like that. Well, 5.8 liters technically not a big block.
Yeah.
6 and up is a big block, but it's a big throaty V8.
Yeah.
They're not easy to control. They they had steering boxes for the most part at that time.
Okay.
They're not very exact. They're not comfortable. They're
Yeah.
not. It was literally a pissing contest from pretty much the early 60s on till right before the 80s. Of just throw the bigger V8 into the square body thing and let's just see what happens.
It's funny, too, because they do mention that in the show about the fact that they wanted to make them longer, so they literally made them longer.
Right. That's the thing. Like, the bigger
nothing-
car was the cooler car.
Right. And so it was like, there's like 2 feet of empty space in front of the engine. It's hilarious.
Well, and then you get, from the 78 Town car that I reviewed, right? The 1978 Town car had a 7.5 liter V8. Made like 180 horsepower. 7.5 liter. I know we've talked about it here on the podcast.
Yeah,
but
but
7.5 liter.
I don't
think
listen.
it's a 460 cubic inch.
Yeah.
It made under 200 horsepower.
How is that? Really?
Yeah, where like a few years later, we're looking at turbo inline 4s that were making 150, 160.
Right. So how is
today?
Was it just sloppy? I mean, was it just?
Yeah, I mean, it's just this big, lopey, throaty, lazy V8. Like even my Mazda 3, my naturally aspirated 2.5 liter 4-cylinder Mazda 3 makes more horsepower than that town car.
Wow.
So that was just sort of, in the 70s and 60s and 70s, it was just, let's put the bigger engine into it. Let's make it longer. Let's make it bigger.
Yeah.
There wasn't a focus on, let's make it corner better. Let's get
yes.
the suspension geometry.
Right.
Let's maybe a solid rear axle isn't the best.
Right. And so you're right in knowing that. Now, I didn't know that. So I would have, my first guess was, oh, that looks cool. That looks like it'd be a lot of fun to take through there. Yeah, not a great idea. And after watching it, it's like all the things that went wrong with it.
Yeah, that's like, I'm trying to think of like a good analogy. It's like, those cars to me are just so unprecise.
Okay.
I mean, I'm trying to think of like a good like tool analogy or something. Like, you know what I mean though? It's like, it's not only it's not the right tool for the job in that there's no job for that tool to do.
Oh,
I mean, that's like
yeah.
trying to hammer in a drywall nail with a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
It's just it's overkill. It's too big. It's too.
Yeah.
It would not have been fun. So the Lotus or Porsche would have been my pick. I haven't driven either of those. I think I don't know. I'd probably lean towards Porsche. Honestly, I just like Porsches.
Yeah, the Porsche probably would have been my choice, but again, after seeing the special, you're just like, oh, I would.
Yeah, I mean, the Lotus literally had no issues.
Right, which was crazy
throughout the whole. It got stuck once.
Yeah.
But other than that, it really was a solid car. Mid-engine, I think, made a big difference with a lot of the stuff that they were going over, because that Porsche was front-engined, which is rare for Porsche, but that was a front-engine Porsche.
Which is, you're right, though, it was. And I was trying to figure that out as I was watching that. I'm like, wait a minute, how did he do that with the back? Because he took out the back and made it into a Porsche pickup, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and that's when I was, okay, fine, it's got to be in the front.
Right.
Yeah, which was kind of odd to me. And then I was thinking about the fact that, with the Lotus, there just really wasn't much that went wrong with it, even though they did mention it was like known to be one of the most unreliable
Yeah,
cars.
I mean, you're talking about a 90s twin-turbo V8, which was seen, I believe, like Ferrari had a twin-turbo V8 at the time, but twin turbocharging really hasn't been that common until the late 2000s, I would say.
Okay.
There was definitely, I mean, the early 90s RX-7 was twin-turbo.
Okay.
That was a twin-turbo rotary.
Okay.
Twin turbos really, I mean, it's just so many more moving parts.
Right.
That it's harder to get down. But I mean, now Audis have been twin turbos for 15 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
Things like that. But what you would have taken the Mustang?
At
the start of it.
Actually, at the start of it, I probably would have taken the Mustang, and I would have paid for it all the way through.
Yeah.
I would probably have chosen either. Honestly, now that I think about it, either the Mustang because it was cool looking, and I had no idea how sloppy and crappy it was, or the Lotus.
Yeah.
I would have taken either one of the two, but not the Porsche, because I would have thought, well, that's fine, but it was kind of like, the business car. It was kind of like an executive car. I didn't think it, although I love Porsches. I think they're awesome.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I think I would have probably taken the Mach 1, and I would have been really paying for it the whole time.
It is what it is. You got a special place for green Fords in your heart.
Yes, I do. Actually I do. And I was thinking about that too. I was like, well, what? And actually, kind of off the subject. I know we never veer off.
I know we never veer off.
Never
so
veer off the subject.
uncharacteristic.
Someone asked me. I was visiting a friend last night, and he asked me. He said, "Have you ever?" Because we were talking about the podcast,
right?
And he said, "Have you ever asked Zach, of all the cars you've driven, you've driven like 1 billion cars, okay, every car on the planet, what one would you say really stands out that you really like?"
1983 Nissan Z31 200ZS.
Wow, that was.
It's been on my mind a lot recently.
Wait, so in 1931, what?
1983. Did I say 31?
No,
I meant
you said
1983.
1983.
Nissan Z31 200ZS. It was never sold here in the States.
Okay.
I drove out to Pennsylvania for this car.
All right.
It's a Z31. So the 300ZX that we got here in the States from the 80s, the boxy 300ZX.
Mm-hmm.
So in Japan, they have displacement laws, or a displacement tax.
Okay.
Which most of the world has displacement tax. We're one of the only countries that doesn't.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So over in Japan, you pay more money the larger your engine is.
Okay.
So we got a 3-liter V6 here in the States.
Mm-hmm.
3-liter V6 or 3-liter V6 turbo.
Mm-hmm.
Over there, they got a 2-liter V6 with a turbo. That was like the base level, was a 2-liter V6 turbo, which is a small V6.
Yeah.
With a turbo on it. So it was right-hand drive. It was manual. It was set up on some really good suspension.
Mm-hmm.
And I do credit the experience sort of plays into this, where I had the car completely alone. I was in an abandoned town in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
There was mountain pass roads, and I have video of it. I'm so glad I put the GoPro on my head.
Yeah.
I'm going through the mountains of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Which people say is hill. It could have been hills. I'm not very versed in mountains.
Yeah.
It was a windy altitude.
There
roads.
were inclines. There were declines.
Right.
Okay.
And it was twisty, very twisty, turny.
Yeah.
And there was wild turkeys running all around. And when I got up to the top of this mountain/hill, it was super foggy. And this car, I mean, this car really felt like second skin to me.
Wow.
Where it was, I was driving on the right-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
Right, contrary to us in the States.
Yeah.
And I was shifting with my left hand, and I blipped the throttle, put it into the lower gear. Boom, it was right there. It was a perfect rev match. The turn-in was great. I felt super confident driving it, and it really just felt like second skin to me. I think I credit a lot of it to the experience of I was in a town that was abandoned in the 1960s due to a coal fire.
Yeah.
Centralia, Pennsylvania.
That
for
is
those
pretty.
of you.
That is pretty like wow.
That was like literally one of those blockbuster days for me.
Yeah.
And I took the thumbnail photo, and it's just an abandoned street.
Yeah.
And it was in the fall too, so all the trees were different color, and it was foggy. I was in an abandoned town, and I had the shot of the car in the middle of the road, and it's just all abandoned road behind it, and there's graffiti.
Yeah.
And it's just like I even get goosebumps talking about it. Like it was just this amazing day out of a picture book. Okay. And so if I could take any car home from the 562 reviews I've done, I think that would be the one.
So say it again slowly.
1983.
1983.
Nissan 200 ZS.
ZS?
ZS.
Not ZX?
Not ZX.
ZS.
ZX is what we got here in the States.
Oh.
So we got a 300 ZX. This is a 200 ZS.
So this is a Nissan 200 ZS.
And the ZS is very, very rare because the ZS was only one step up from the base model.
Okay.
This thing got like power windows.
Oh.
The base model was just the, I believe, 200S. That had like crank windows, no back seats, no T-tops.
All right.
So I think this one had, I don't know if it had T-tops actually. The Z31s had T-tops. But yeah, you know, there's plenty of cars I would gladly take home. BMW M3 comes to mind pretty quickly. Yeah. Obviously the Huracan that I drove I would take home. Actually, I don't know if I would, honestly.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of them that I think you were probably surprised at once you drove them.
So I do credit the 200 ZS. That was a whole experience.
Yeah.
That was a whole day of me just on cloud nine.
Right.
And I think I associate that with the car.
Well,
if I drove the 200 ZS here in town, not on the mountain roads, not in the abandoned town, not while it's foggy in the fall, maybe I wouldn't have loved it as much. But
that's like me. I credit like every single day I had the Mazda RX-7, the 1981, to be the fact that I love the Mazda RX-7.
That was an 80.
It was a 1980.
Oh,
Didn't I?
You said 81.
Did I say 81?
You just said 81, but yeah.
Okay, anyway, so yes, go ahead.
But tying it back into Top Gear.
That's what I was going to do.
I think I love it because it's this adventure. It's a whole day with it. They go on this whole experience with the car, and I think why I love and why people love these specials so much is because that's having an experience with the car is what makes a car cool.
Yes.
There's plenty of people.
That's how people bond with cars.
My mom included. She gets in the car. She goes to work. She comes home.
Yeah.
There's no bonding time with the car. There's no experiencing in the car. There's no pushing it to its sketchy limits and finding, this is what this car does under pressure. This, I've been bonding with my Mazda 3.
Sure.
I took it to a track day.
Oh, yeah.
And I unsettled it coming through a corner.
Yeah.
I let off the throttle mid-corner, and the back end was ready to kick out and fight me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's what this car does unsettled.
Yeah.
I braked way too late coming into a corner, and it handled it perfectly.
Wow.
I mean, I gained a lot of respect for the car.
Yeah.
When it snowed, I took the car out and mashed the pedal in a corner, and it kicked the back end out, which is awesome.
Yeah.
It oversteered for a front-wheel drive bias car. It's
Oh, that's right.
It's
That's
all-wheel
right. I
drive,
forgot
but it's
it's
front-wheel drive
I
bias.
forgot it was front-wheel drive bias. Yeah.
And so I found out that if you get the front wheels to slip,
Yeah.
the system's like, oh, the front wheels are slipping. Send all the power to the back.
Right.
And then you mash the pedal once all the power's in the back,
Yeah.
and you can kick it out like a rear-wheel drive car.
Wow, that's cool. That's
so
very
like,
cool.
so that's why I love these movies.
Right, and I was going to tie
films.
that back
Yeah.
into what if you took the 200ZS in this trip? What do you think it would have done? Do you think you would have had a lot of problems?
I don't think I would have had a lot of problems. The 200ZS was a pretty stout car.
Okay.
And granted,
Was
I only
it smaller? Is it a smaller car?
it's like the size of my RX-7.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of
Literally,
small.
it was the competitor to the RX-7
Okay,
here in the
all right.
States. I think the only issue really would have been is that car was on coilovers, suspension, lowered suspension,
Okay. Yeah.
which was great for handling, but I think over 1,000 miles,
Yeah.
that would get real annoying.
Yeah.
With
think you're right.
potholes
Yep.
and
And
the
all the
terrain
rocks
that,
and the stuff that they did.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
they- yeah.
mechanically, the car was owned by a friend of Joe who runs Xenon Z Car out in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
If you have any Z Car questions, Xenon Z Car, spelled with an X.
Total shout out there.
Yeah, no,
definitely.
he's fantastic. A friend of the shop, and he's like, go take it out and do whatever you want. And I'm like, this is a modified car. This is a super rare car. You don't have any instructions for me.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, we drive it almost daily. If it's not me
Wow.
driving it,
Yeah.
it's the owner who's driving it. He's
That's
like,
cool.
and that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing is when, I come drive these cars, a lot of times, I just drove a Mazda B2200, and he's like, all right, don't let it idle for too long. It's going to overheat. Like,
Oh,
okay,
wow.
that-
Okay.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
I
yeah.
drive
No,
a
I
lot
get
of car,
that,
a lot of
still.
modified cars like that. My RX-7 is like that.
Yeah.
Don't let it idle for too long. It will overheat. I need to work on my fans.
There
I
was
need
a
to figure out something.
There was a ton of stuff with the truck that you would have, our Dodge Ram truck that you had to look
Oh,
out
yeah.
for. Yeah,
You
tons
can't
of stuff.
start it when it's raining. I mean, the list goes on and
Right,
on
the
with
list
that
would-
thing.
that.
Yeah, but when I drove the 200ZS, he was like, "No, it's a good, solid running car," and I'm like,
Yeah,
"This
that's
is
awesome.
super
Yeah,
rare.
that's cool.
It's, to our knowledge, the
Mhm.
only one in the country
Really?
because there was also the 200ZR, which
Mhm.
was a 2-liter straight six instead of the V6,
Okay.
big turbo, made a ton of horsepower. It was the RB, I think it was an RB26 engine, which is
Yeah.
like a Skyline engine. That's like the GTR from
right.
Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
That engine
Oh, wow.
in a Z car.
Wow.
That's a sought after one. There's one in Texas. There's
Mhm.
one, there's a couple in the States. But who wants to import a base model? If you're going to go through the
Yeah,
pain of
yeah.
importing, which
Right.
importing a car is a pain,
I bet.
why would you import a base model?
Right.
So, to our knowledge, me and Joe, who runs Xenon Z Car,
Yeah.
that was the only one in the States.
Wow.
So,
Okay. So,
Yeah.
very, very cool. So, again, and getting back to the show, they went through a lot of different terrain. They
Mhm.
went through a lot of stuff. They really, when you see it when it's snowing like a blizzard, and then
Yeah.
they're in the middle of like a swamp, and
Yeah,
it's like
yeah, yeah.
literally, and you have to figure when you look at the map, they traveled a long distance. I like when they were talking about like the navigation system.
oh
And he
yeah,
tapes the map
he
onto the
tapes
front.
the map over his gauges because
Yeah.
all of his gauges broke.
Yeah.
That was something that I was not surprised at, was the electrical issues that the Porsche 928
Really?
had.
Yeah. Okay.
Just 80s, 90s cars with electrical issues, man, because they were still kind of freshly getting these
Mhm.
electronic systems.
That's true. Yeah, I
Um,
bet.
The biggest fight that we fought with my RX-7 was just fighting the 80s electronics.
Really.
We hooked up every single sensor, button, and thing. When
Yeah.
we got the red car running,
Yes.
stock ECU, the original normal ECU that we pulled out of the FC,
Yeah.
we plugged everything in. It would not run right for
Really.
whatever
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
Everything was plugged in. Everything was the exact same as pulled out of a running
Well,
car,
yeah.
and then it just didn't run anymore.
And you had the benefit of someone who literally did that for a living. Adam
Oh,
did that
yeah,
for a
yeah.
where
Adam,
he
yeah.
knew.
Oh,
Shout
yeah.
out to Adam.
Yeah,
Jeez,
jeez.
yeah. He knew every wire in that
Right.
car, and so you're right. It
And
wasn't
that's the biggest thing, is that
Yeah.
he knew every wire was plugged
Absolutely.
in correctly,
Yes.
and he's like, it still doesn't
Yeah,
want to run
it's
for
crazy.
whatever.
Yep.
So that's just 80s electronics.
It is. And one of the reasons why ECUs bugged me
Yeah.
is that I would rather have a carbureted car where you just tinker with it
Yeah.
and you can get it going, which is fine. But The ECUs are really cool because what you showed me with the laptop was pretty darn awesome, which you cannot do.
Yeah, just
with
adjusting
a carbureted
fuel
car.
maps on the fly.
Right.
And
that kind of stuff. And, so there's a,
yeah,
good and bad for each, pros and cons of those. But yeah.
But yeah, something I did want to talk about, just kind of the history of Top Gear a little bit, Top Gear as a whole. So first thing I want to talk about was the BBC.
Yeah,
so the BBC,
you said that about, go ahead.
So the BBC, they, I guess, hosted Top Gear. It's the British Broadcasting Company, which actually then switched their name to British Broadcasting something else. With a C
corporation?
As well. Corporation.
Okay.
Thank you.
BBC, yeah.
So it was actually founded in 1922.
Oh, wow.
And last year their revenue...
in 1922?
1922, the BBC. So, like, the BBC was, like, broadcasting...
Must have been radio.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So but they were broadcasting during the Second World War.
Yeah.
They were broadcasting... I mean, they've been around for 98 years at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
And last year their revenue was £4.94 billion, which is $7 billion.
Wow.
Was their revenue.
Wow.
So they're a big company.
Yeah.
Not to say that Amazon isn't.
No,
which they moved over to Amazon, and the money is still there, but something that I realized watching this and watching the new Grand Tour is the BBC's been around since 1922.
Yeah.
Amazon was late 90s, but even then they haven't been doing video until the 2000s.
Right. Yeah.
So where they have the money, they're down to spend the money.
Yeah.
They don't have the connections.
Okay.
I think that's the biggest thing because the BBC, Top Gear actually was the BBC's largest show for a couple of years.
Oh,
it was actually the biggest
wow.
show in the world for a couple of years.
Wow.
In terms of weekly viewership.
Okay.
It was well into the millions. It was like, I think what was it, like 16, 17 million weekly viewers consistently.
Wow.
But the BBC also has all of the nature documentaries with David Attenborough.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, so they have connections. They know people in every corner of the earth, and they actually joke about in a couple of other specials from Top Gear. They're like, oh, by the way, we just borrowed this footage from David Attenborough's show.
Okay.
And
all right.
in the ending here, which we'll talk about a little bit later,
yes,
they're talking about can we get an embassy on the phone?
Yes.
That Amazon's not going to call an embassy.
Right.
Amazon as much money as Jeff Bezos has, you don't get a sat phone to the embassy.
Right.
Being that BBC has that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's been a big difference with the Grand Tour is that, yes, they have all the money. The camera shots are amazing.
Yeah.
That the production quality, to quote Super 8, that great film. The production quality is there,
yeah.
but you could just tell that, like, when they were filming for the BBC, these shows were being filmed on the back of 90 years of connections and relationships.
Yeah, and you need that. I mean, especially when you're doing something international like that, you absolutely need to. It's really truly like in life. It's who you know.
It's literally it's connections. It's who you know.
Yep,
so.
Exactly. No, I totally get that. And it was. I don't know if you want to start talking about the whole thing that ends. This.
Well,
thing.
I have a whole thing about pretty much the downfall of Top Gear, which we'll wrap
okay.
into.
All right, let's see. Yeah,
so
I mean,
actually,
whatever you want to. Yeah.
So Top Gear was a show before this show.
What?
Originally, Top Gear ran from 1978 to 2000. And it was
a Japanese anime cartoon? Yeah.
No. It was a half-hour show that was literally just car reviews, just like Motor Trend used to do.
Oh, okay. All right.
All of that sort of stuff. And actually, Jeremey Clarkson joined Top Gear in 1988. He just started doing reviews for them in 1988.
Yeah.
Which is way early. So then that show was canceled in 2000.
Yeah.
So technically this Top Gear is known as New Top Gear.
Oh.
It's still just called Top Gear, but like people call it New Top Gear when referring to it. Which Jeremey Clarkson started in 2002. So he worked for old Top Gear starting in 88 to 2000, and then when they revamped it, Clarkson helped create it, which must have been so hard to get fired from. A show that
no kidding.
Because Top Gear back in the 70s and 80s, it was just like one of those shows that, your dad had on. in the
Sure.
background, and it was just like,
It
oh,
makes
they're
sense.
they're
Bob's
talking about
Garage or
yeah,
something,
they're
yeah.
talking about the new Astro or whatever.
Yeah, the Astro van.
European cars or whatever.
Yeah, whatever that equivalent was. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, so Clarkson took it
Yeah.
and they added the star in the reasonably priced car. They added that segment. You remember that segment? They'd have a
Absolutely,
celebrity
I do.
come in.
Yeah, yeah, I
and
do
set
remember
a hot
that.
lap.
Yep.
Clarkson helped come up with these adventure ideas
Yeah.
along with car reviews, but he really changed the format of it and put it on the map. Clarkson put Top Gear on the
So
map.
that was him.
That was him.
Okay, that's very cool. Yeah.
Because, like I said, he started in the '80s for Old One, brought that stuff over, but
Wow.
then when they revamped it, he's credited as one of the main guys who started in Top Gear. So this is an excerpt from from Wikipedia, but this just like confirms like other things that I've read.
Okay, so this is from
just
Wikipedia.
So this is worded from
trusted
Wikipedia.
source.
Yeah,
Yep.
super trust. I mean, all my
I
high
know.
school papers were all from Wikipedia. So
No, I know.
so there's some controversy in here that I did not know about, which sort of builds to it. So again, these are not my words. This is pulled from Wikipedia. Towards the end of 2014, the BBC became concerned over Clarkson's behavior on the program, including its production. Their concerns were raised by two incidents that year. The first involved an unaired take from the 19th series, or 19th season, emerging on the national news media featuring the presenter attempting to choose between two cars in the traditional rhyme, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, but failing to censor the original version's use of the N-word. So, I didn't know, first of all, pause here, this is my words. I didn't know eeny, meeny, miny, mo had the N-word in it.
Eeny, meeny.
It's eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a blank by the toe. If he hollers, let him go. So he like whispered
I thought
it.
that was tiger.
Yeah, I was always
growing
up. It was always tiger or lion or something.
Catch a tiger by his toe.
So I guess in the UK or maybe
that
we're
is
just
completely
oblivious.
wrong. That's awfully bad. Yeah.
He does the thing where he's like yeah, and then he's like catch a like that. Which so
that would be bad, but
that's not good for sure. The second involved an investigation into racism complaints by the regulator OFCOM in regards to the show's Burma special. They got semi-trucks and drove it through Burma. Which led the program to being found in breach of broadcasting rules. The presenters had been involved in constructing a bridge, which they mentioned in this special.
Yeah,
they're like,
did,
we're good at building bridges.
Yeah.
So they built a bridge over the River Kwai.
Yeah.
But basically,
wow.
there was an Asian man crossing it, and he remarked the bridge as having a racial Asian slur on it. You could probably put the pieces together.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Which the bridge was slightly crooked.
Gotcha.
So that was like the joke.
All right.
As a result of these matters, the broadcast issued a final warning against Clarkson.
Wow.
Okay. The program then suffered another incident, which took place in this film. The production of the next special in Argentina was dogged by major issues that placed the team under serious risk of harm, as one of the car's license plates read H982FKL in an alleged reference to the Falklands War of 1982. The controversial incident it created was covered by international news media, but despite the issues it faced, the special was later aired on the BBC's Christmas schedule for 2014, though amendments to its ending and the inclusion of an introduction for it. So that's what happened in this show was at the end of the special we're talking about today, they got to the Tierra del Fuego, which is basically translated to the end of the earth, I think.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. It's
but basically there was a bunch of Argentinian veterans who were very upset with Clarkson because his Porsche had the license plate H982FKL, which they thought was a reference to the 1982 Falkland War. Which I did get a little excerpt about the Falklands War.
Good.
Was a 10-week undeclared war between Argentina and the United Kingdom in 1982 over two British dependent territories in the South Atlantic, the Falkland Islands and its territorial dependencies, South Georgia and the South Sandwich Islands. So basically,
Right,
it was a 10-week war over territory. Argentina wanted the islands back. Britain, for some reason, being power hungry, they always take territories in the most random spots.
Yeah.
They fought them, and Britain actually won. So there's a lot of anti-British feelings in the Falklands.
Okay.
Which around I believe 300 Argentinians died. In the 10-week fight.
That's obviously a very, very political thing there. I don't know. I understand for whatever reasons, for world domination reasons or whatever, you'd want to have a thing in the very outpost of the bottom of the world or whatever. I don't. It's just I want to say this one thing to the entire world just needs to chill out.
Yeah, with the territorial thing, it's there's too much bloodshed over literally land.
Exactly. I completely agree.
It would be different if there was only one spot where crops grew.
Right.
I could see that being an issue.
Right. Exactly.
And yes,
I know.
Argentina is very beautiful.
It
very
is.
beautiful,
It
but there shouldn't be killing over it.
There shouldn't be killing, period. So anyway.
Yeah, so I know you guys all turn to this podcast for world news and government relations.
And that's pretty much, if you rely on this for
for any form of news or actual anything besides entertainment, if you rely on this for information.
This, by the way, is, we should say, for entertainment purposes only.
Oh yes. So that should go without saying.
We should just begin every podcast with spoiler alerts.
I think the worst thing in the world would be a podcast being played back in court. So just for the court reader, this is all a joke.
Exactly.
So
I agree with that.
More here about the cancellation of Top Gear.
Okay.
On the 10th of March 2015, this 22nd series of the program was abruptly put on hiatus by the BBC. The broadcaster's actions were a result of them suspending Clarkson in order to investigate allegations made against him over verbal and physical abuse he had committed against one of the show's producers. On the 25th of March, Clarkson's contract with the BBC was terminated, and the Director General of the BBC, Tony Hall, announcing that the remaining episodes' future were uncertain until the broadcaster could determine how to air them and complete the 22nd series. I was talking to you about it earlier. They filmed the last, I think, 2 episodes, or it was just the last episode without him.
Yeah, which was very bizarre.
Did you go and watch it or no?
No, I didn't. No, but we do have that, so I can watch it.
I watched a little bit of it today.
Is it weird?
Well, they fully lean into it.
Oh, they do?
Because in the
Okay,
beginning, it's always on tonight's episode, I do this.
Yeah.
Hammond does this, May does
Right.
this. And then it's Richard Hammond doing the narrator.
Really?
Which has never happened.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
then
That would be
there's
weird. That would be different. Yeah.
A shot of Clarkson getting out of his car. He's like, oh, that's awkward. And then they get into the show. Literally. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. Yeah.
So basically,
wow.
Jeremey Clarkson got drunk and punched one of the producers in the face.
Really?
Yeah. So
that's not good.
And that led to, I'm not going to read the rest of this, but basically that led to Jeremey Clarkson getting fired. Richard Hammond and James May a week or so later followed suit. I'm sure they had to consult someone about the legality of them just leaving.
I'm sure. Yeah,
and people kind of chastise them of why wouldn't you leave the second Clarkson left? And it's well, it's bigger than that. There's lawyers,
no
there's
kidding.
teams.
No kidding. There's a lot. Well, first of all, there's a lot to it, but there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big production.
There's
it's
and
very
also
complicated.
they're making millions of dollars. Jeremey Clarkson, Richard Hammond, and James May are millionaires.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, they are doing fine.
Exactly.
And so, but with that being said, there's a lot that goes into it. They can't just leave something that's making them millions. So they had to figure that stuff out. But then basically it just says here that they went on to the Grand Tour on Amazon.
Well, doesn't Richard Hammond say at some point when John May, is it May? What?
James May.
I cannot even remember.
You can't even get these names straight.
So he said when James May is trying to cross the bridge or something, and he's like, do you guys want to tell me anything? He's trying to cross some water. Is there anything you guys want to tell me? And Richard Hammond's like, can I have your Ferrari?
Oh, yeah,
it's really hilarious.
Yeah,
but it's like, okay.
they all have car collections.
I was going to say, I'm sure that their car collections
they're
are
doing
amazing,
fine.
But yeah, okay.
But that's pretty much it. So, that's the whole... What were your thoughts on watching that whole sequence? Because that was... we talked about earlier, there's a lot of stage stuff that goes on with this. I'm sure Hammond filling up the Mustang in a provocative way was staged. I'm sure he was aware of it.
Right.
Blah,
yes.
blah, blah.
Yeah.
This was not planned. This was where it actually sort of cuts to very guerrilla filmmaking.
Yeah, it's very much so. Where like
production, there are no helicopter shots or drone shots.
No,
of
there's
what goes on.
Exactly, and so you do see it. It switches from really high production value to I've got a hidden camera,
shaky cam, hold it on your lap,
right?
And,
and hope that the guy's not seeing you filming this, and then they're outside of a window and literally through like binoculars and stuff. So it becomes this like hidden camera thing. And yes, at the very end of the show, I mean, again, super spoiler alerts, but you should see this. I highly encourage people to watch this. At the very end, they're reaching their goal. They're reaching their end
they're
point.
reaching the bottom section. They're in the Falkland Islands, I believe.
I believe.
No.
Well, no,
they're still on mainland Argentina.
They're still on mainland,
but they're at the very bottom.
Yep. And so they're ready to do they were going to actually have a soccer game with the cars, and they were all set to do it.
Yeah, which they've done on many episodes before. They've done soccer games with cars, and it's always fun to watch. They hit into each other.
Yeah, and sure, and I've seen that before in their shows, and I thought, okay, well, this would be great. And then at the very end, because I do remember there was this thing, something happened, but I didn't remember. So watching it today again was pretty cool. It wasn't cool that it happened, but it was interesting how they did it, how they filmed it, and how they
got real fast.
Yeah, it got really real. So all of a sudden, there was a group of people that basically came to the production group and said, including police and local officials, and said, hey, you got a group here that wants you out in 3 hours.
Yeah.
And they said, we need 24 hours to get a group of literally 4 tons of equipment and 31 people to get out of here.
Which I was thinking about, 24 hours to move 31 people and 4 tons of equipment.
Yeah.
That's not just going on Skyscanner and getting American Airlines tickets. That's
no, really. Yes,
that
right.
is literally buying a plane.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the logistics of something like that. So again, that goes back to they have a huge crew that they're traveling with. So that kind of was an eye-opener for me when they were talking about the number of people. Then the fact that they were being threatened with their lives, basically, and how angry these people were.
Yeah.
And, to a point, I was like, okay, I get it that you're upset about this war, and it's a terrible thing. And loss of life should never happen, period, and all that stuff. I totally get that. But then the reaction of people along the side of the road, because you see them at night traveling.
They do roadblocks, and they throw stones and eggs.
And they literally abandoned the 3 cars that they had. They abandoned them, which to me was like this really abrupt boom. It's done. It's over. We are because you see them drag these cars all the way through this presentation, and then at the end they're like, "Boom! Okay, we're getting rid of these."
It's like
things.
losing. I mean, it really is losing 3 characters of the
It
show,
is.
and they
It
really
is.
just left them on the side of the road for dead.
Right. Exactly. They just left them. And
there was a mob of like 300 people.
Yeah.
They attacked the
Yes,
vans,
they
and this is all like real stuff that happened.
real stuff. Yeah, they had footage from YouTube actually. From
which
other
was
people, which was interesting. But so it's just all this crazy mess. So like you said, it's surreal, but it was real. It actually was real. What was happening, and they were throwing eggs at first, and then they started throwing rocks.
Yeah.
And just mobs of people throwing rocks and stones, and they showed the car damage afterwards for all the vehicles and windows broken and all this stuff. And you're just like, oh my gosh, what? I mean, the anger, and this was not people that were going to make any money from hurting these people. They were just angry.
Yeah.
And it was a way to get out their anger at, Britain and all that. Yeah.
And in multiple interviews, they've said that was not like a joke number plate. That was not on purpose.
Okay.
That seems very suspicious to me
because
it is so like if it just had the number 1982 in it, I would see that being a little bit easier to believe, but it was so spot on, so spot on.
Right.
But apparently I think this is how it is in Europe, or at least in the UK. Yeah. Like in California, the license plate travels with the car.
Oh.
So when you sell it, You keep the license plate on it, and it's just
see.
registered to that new person.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
That's how California is.
Yeah.
That's how I've been told the UK is.
Mm-hmm.
So in the interview, because James May talked about it on BBC Radio or something,
okay,
and he was like, "You can go back and check that was the number plate on that car."
Yeah.
From day one.
Uh-huh.
However, there's also the argument that's brought up that if someone saw that car for sale, they got the joke or whatever reference they wanted to say, hey, we're going to the Falklands. That license plate looks like it mentions the Falklands. Let's buy that car because of it. That has never been disclosed. All that's been said is that is the original number plate on the car, and but also they knew it was going to be an issue because they mentioned in the movie that they brought a second fake number plate for the soccer game.
That is true. They said that, yeah.
So is it the BBC trying to save themselves and just say that is the original number plate, but that maybe they saw that, they bought that car because of the number plate, and then they were like, oh, it has a V8, let's think of something, let's get all V8s.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a gray area. I don't want to speculate, even though I just spent 3 minutes speculating.
I totally get that. And in fact, you think about that, beyond that, think about the fact that they're they have number plates on cars. I get that, license plates, number plates, however you want to call it, but they're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
There's not like a cop that's going to pull them over and question their number plates.
And also they've done movies and stuff like this without number plates because it's a production.
Yes, it is.
It's a film production.
Right.
You don't technically need
no,
license
you
plates.
don't. And it's you're not going to have, because they're working with authorities all the way through. In fact, they even had an escort on the way out.
Yeah.
A police escort, which they reached a point in the way out that they thought they were safe, and then it was like, no, if you go through the city, a mob of 300 people is waiting for you.
Yeah.
So they literally had to hightail it and actually take separate routes, or they had to figure out another route. That's how crazy this whole thing was. And I agree with you that, that number plate is a very questionable thing. Kind of like the other stuff, like you said, the back and forth play that they do sometimes is very staged, and you can tell. And
I mean, there's definitely scripted parts of it. You could tell when they genuinely laugh at stuff.
Oh,
and it's the best.
It is,
but that's another thing I want to touch on with the BBC is that they had at the end they're driving away and they're trying to get a satellite phone to the embassy.
Right.
They have a police escort and stuff, and I just don't see that stuff happening for Amazon right now.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unless Amazon was throwing millions at them. But, they just don't have those connections. No. Amazon isn't as big in the bottom of Argentina.
Right.
And
it takes... it takes
decades to form those relationships.
Exactly right. That you do.
So someone from the BBC has known the Argentinian police chief for years, and stuff like that.
Yes, and so those things could happen with the BBC. You're right. That's a
I do have one thing of trivia.
Okay.
That pertains to this episode, and then I do have the fate of the cars.
Oh, you do?
An article recently came out.
Okay,
I had to scour the internet for it.
Okay.
But so our trivia fact is throughout Series 22, symbols of Chile appear throughout the show. For example, on one episode, a picture of Alexis Sanchez who's a Chilean footballer is visible on the table. On another, the stig is on a Chilean flag. This is because the Chilean people helped them escape Argentina in the controversial Patagonia special.
Wow.
So throughout the rest of the season, because this is the first two.
Okay.
This is the first two episodes of season 22.
Yeah.
There was hints to Chile
Gotcha.
throughout the season, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
Because that's like a sign of respect of thank you.
Right.
Even episodes after this special, they were still kind of
very cool.
doing little Easter eggs in there.
Yeah, great.
But I did scour up. So Clarkson, May, and Hammond have a new website. It's called Drive Tribe.
Okay.
And it's about finding your tribe. And so you join a tribe of drifters or drag racers or muscle car guys. And you could join multiple tribes, whatever. It's kind of like a Facebook groups sort of page. But they have news and articles and such. And then recently there was an article written about the cars. So the Mustang, the Porsche, and the Lotus from this show. And it says, now as you might imagine, nearly 6 years after the cars were dumped something had to have happened to them. Well, yes, all 3 cars were seized by the Argentinian government, and for a while they stayed in a constantly guarded warehouse.
Really?
For fear that angry mobs would try to burn the cars.
Wow.
However, a couple years ago, the Argentinian and UK government apparently agreed in a hush-hush operation to compact the 3 cars in a junkyard in Rio Grande. Members of the Foreign Ministry and British Embassy watched as the 3 cars were effectively shredded and compacted.
Oh, my gosh.
They did shred them, but they had to have officials there to both witness it and sign off at the fact that these cars no longer existed.
Wow.
That's the lengths they went to in order to get rid of these things.
Wow.
They weren't resold like most cars on the show were.
Right.
They weren't put in a museum, which
wow.
they should have been.
Yeah. Wow.
There's unfortunately,
I didn't expect that. I really didn't expect.
Yeah.
I expected like someone somewhere found them, got them, was storing them for a while, and then somebody else bought them and shipped them back.
So
or something like
I
that.
was
Wow.
scouring
Okay.
online, and
it's so sad.
Yeah, I was on Internet Movie Car Database. Shout out.
All right, shout out.
And
yeah,
there was a bunch of comments on the Porsche picture.
Oh.
And of course, the Porsche being the controversial car.
Yes.
And some people were like, they were all doing like these like website searches of the number plate, and like people were like, oh, it doesn't say that it's been scrapped. But they also apparently there's a way to tell when a car's been exported and imported.
Oh.
There's like export tags that are associated with the license plate, at least for UK cars.
Yeah.
And they're like, but there's no export tag. There's no export tag, so it never left the country again.
Okay, yeah.
So they're like, it's probably stored somewhere in Argentina.
Yeah.
And then the Drive Tribe, which is the official website for Clarkson, May, and Hammond, they wrote the article about them being shredded.
Wow.
Which was very, very interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like they should have been in like a museum or something.
I mean,
you should look up pictures. They look rough.
Yeah.
There's one picture of them in the guarded warehouse.
Really?
And they're like just shoved together, and they're like battered, beaten.
Wow.
The Porsche still has the stripes on it.
That's
the Mustang
right. They
still
put the
has the
stripes
roll
on it.
cage, and it's still a pickup truck.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That is just. I keep saying wow. It's just that I had no idea that would be how they ended up.
Yeah,
and
which is
sad.
it is sad. They were shredded.
Yeah.
And I've always been curious about all the cars. I don't know what they do with any of the cars.
Yeah.
I know Hammond owns that one from the Africa special. He
The
actually
Opel?
bought the Opel. Yeah. I think it was an Opel Kadett.
Okay.
Something like that.
When I was there was a reason why I like the Opel is because again it's nostalgia. When I was in mechanic school, and right before I graduated from that and got my certificate, automotive certificate, one of the guys, actually it was one of the girls who was in mechanic school, owned an Opel, and she brought the Opel, and
was it the Opel GT?
I think so.
Did it have the headlights that rolled?
Maybe it was like very, very curvy. Like the whole thing was like.
Did it kind of look like a Corvette?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay,
so the Opel GTs, so they have pop-up headlights.
Okay, yeah.
But they don't pop up; they just roll over.
Oh.
So the bottom of them has a light, and it's like flat, like
Yeah.
it looks like a pop-up headlight, but instead of popping up, it just rolls over to reveal
that's
the
cool.
headlight.
I
really
thought it
cool.
was a cool car when I saw it.
Yeah, I've always wanted to drive. I've never driven an Opel, so
yeah. Anyway, I thought it was cool. But yeah, so sidetrack there. But
huge sidetrack.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the special.
Yeah.
Fantastic watch. Please go watch
I
it.
completely agree. 100%.
How much did we pay for the season on Amazon?
For the entire for one episode, it was $2.99.
But it's a two episode.
It was a 2 episode, so I was like gonna go, okay, well then I'll and then for the entire season, it's like $11.99, so $12.
Okay.
So I'm like, forget it.
Yeah,
I'm buying
just
the
do
whole
12.
season.
I think it's the most we've paid for one of these.
It's a big expense.
But I would say it's well worth it.
Oh, yeah,
I love
well
Top
worth it.
Gear. If
Yep.
you have an Amazon Prime membership, you
Yep.
can watch the Grand Tour. Maybe
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
do a Grand Tour.
Yeah, we could do something like that.
special, something like that.
This was a good one for, like you said, it would be hard to do all of them.
Right.
It would be hard to do, because it goes on and on and on.
Right.
They get years and 22, seasons. I mean, that's
right.
a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a good one to do. I think is just this is our Top Gear one.
Right.
This is our show for our podcast for Top Gear. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's it. Do you have the next? Oh, well, wait.
Oh,
would you change the channel?
I would not change the channel. I thought I enjoyed it that much
Yeah.
because of the scenery and everything going on. I would not change the channel. I wouldn't probably, depending on what part it was at, I probably would not sit down and watch it, but I definitely would not change the channel. I enjoyed it. And so, yeah. How about you?
I mean, I would stop what I was doing and I'd
Would
sit
you?
down and
Yeah,
watch it.
you
Oh,
sit
yeah.
down and watch it. Actually, you did. You came into the office today
Oh,
and you
yeah.
stopped. You had just done a shoot. You were out on a shoot, I
No,
think.
I got back from the store.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
Right,
because
yeah.
I'm packing for my trip.
Well, you had, and you had
but I
so
had
much
stuff in my. I was just holding stuff in my
and
hand.
you were literally
just
started watching it.
just
I
started
was like,
watching it with
so,
you. Yeah.
Yeah, I know
Standing
for
there,
sure.
yeah.
I know for sure you would stop and
Yeah.
watch this. Yeah,
'Cause
definitely.
that's literally
so.
what I did.
Yeah,
but.
exactly.
All right, what's our next one? As
So-
we're coming to an end here.
All right, so the next one, and it's my choice, and I've been
Yeah.
trying to think as we were.
Yeah.
I didn't really have
This is
one.
like the hardest part for you.
It
finding-
is.
Yeah.
It is very hard. Yesterday, I actually, I shouldn't say that. Today, I was looking for the next one, and I
Okay.
couldn't find it. However, someday we will do this, and I'm going to force both of us to watch it because I can't find it, and that one is Corvette Summer with Mark Hamill. Mark.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's not our next one though?
that's not our next
Okay.
one. That's not our next one. Our next one is actually one that you've already seen. I have not. And the only reason why I'm doing this, the only reason, is because someone else mentioned it to me yesterday, and they're like, "Oh, did you do this one yet?" And I'm like, "Oh, shut up! Everybody keeps asking me about it, so you probably know which one it is."
I think so.
Okay, say what do you think it is?
Ready? Say it on 3. Ready?
Right.
1, 2, 3.
Ford versus Ferrari. That is so funny.
Everyone brings it
everyone,
up. Everyone
everyone.
always
So
asks.
we have to
let's
do it.
settle the score.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I
do
mean,
it.
I am tired of people hounding me. People stand outside of my house every day and they pound the
They
doors.
throw rocks at
throw
our
rocks and
studio
eggs
at
at
all of
the
our Teslas we have parked out front. And our gold-plated Hummers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, because of how, and our giant mansion,
we have a horse, too. They throw rocks at our horse.
which I find very disturbing.
Yeah.
So Ford versus Ferrari, we are definitely doing it, and everybody raves about it. I'm gonna hold back my judgment on it or whatever. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, the Rush episode hasn't even come out yet, but I'm sure you're gonna piss people off with that.
Oh, I'm absolutely certain.
So,
and I apologize for that. I mean, I've told people I'm just being honest about where I'm coming from on that one.
Yeah.
I just absolutely.
I'm
fine.
very curious to hear these thoughts that you have on
okay.
Ford versus Ferrari.
Well, the other thing I was going to ask is when are we starting to do our next thing on the Halloween stuff?
We're coming up on it.
Are we?
Yeah.
So
So
just tell me that. But yeah.
So for the month of October,
Yeah.
the 4 Saturdays in October, we will be doing scary-ish movies.
Yeah,
Ghostbusters is going to be
scary-ish.
one of them.
Yeah. So
And we're going to try to pick out some scary or Halloween-themed car movies.
Stuff, yeah.
So be on the lookout for that for every weekend in October, which is
Yes.
super exciting.
Yep. So it'll be fun. And hopefully we're gonna get George back, which in an episode that hasn't even
Oh
been
yeah, that
released yet.
won't air for a while.
Right, that won't air for a while. But my brother wants to do another one. He actually wants to watch a movie. What?
He might be in an episode before he's in his first episode.
That's right. That's right. So this is
we
all
already
mixed
we
bag.
pre-filmed our
Yep.
Thanksgiving
Yep.
special back in April.
We
so,
did. So yeah, my brother was in town, and
Yeah.
and we got him for the podcast, which is great.
yeah.
And which is funny because in a previous podcast, if he does a podcast now, he'll talk about his new Porsche, which he doesn't have in the in the later podcast.
Oh
when he
God,
talks about Porsche.
this is gonna be a very confusing couple of months here with the
Exactly.
podcast. But thank you guys so much
Yep.
for listening. Please go watch the Top Gear special. Check us
Definitely.
out on Spotify.
Yep.
If you aren't listening there already, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.